I read a cute anecdote the other day about a young woman who showed up at the Department of Motor Vehicles to get her license renewed. Well, first of all, her hair was a different color and style. Before, she had glasses. Now, contact lenses. She'd lost a lot of weight. Her address had changed. To top things off, she'd recently gotten married, so now her last name was different. And the clerk, who looked at her old ID and then examined close up the new person standing in front of her, couldn't help but comment. "What's the deal with you anyway?" she asked. "Did you just enter the witness protection program?" Which puts this question in our minds. What is it like to be stripped of your identity, to feel insignificant, unloved, unwanted? How painfully true that the answer to that Bible question from Isaiah, can a woman forget her baby? That answer is yes. Mom can forget. People can be left by the side of the road because those who should care don't. I happen to notice in the LA Times a feature story by Christopher Noxon about a TV special on HBO, Witness Protection. Now, the article and the TV film describe what it's like to be one of the 25,000 or so people who are completely stripped of their identities and eventually emerge into a faraway community with new names, new papers, new jobs, new houses, new backgrounds and histories, new everything. Apparently, there's actually a government complex called the Witness Security Safe Site and Protection Center. It's top secret, of course, and this is where federal marshals take a family through this stripping process. Most of them are criminals, actually, close to 98% of them. And the government gives them this option, generally because they've testified against other criminals or mobsters. In this particular television film, the story is about a Boston loan shark who has played the rat, testifying in court against the mafia bosses he used to work for. So now he has to go into hiding. Either that or end up wearing cement shoes in the Hudson River, sleeping with the fishes, if you remember that old line. The film's producer, a Howard Meltzer, describes how hard the process is. Most of these guys are being plucked out of an urban area and spit out somewhere in Montana to work at a Jiffy Lube or minimum wage. It ain't easy. But there's something harder than the minimum wage bit. Do you know what it is? It's when they take your name away from you. The last step, and frequently the hardest for participants, said Mr. Noxon, the author of the newspaper article, is renaming, officially severing all connections to their previous past life. This place is an emotional car wash, says actor Tom Sizemore, who appeared in the film. Have you ever felt like you've been through that car wash with the windows rolled down, or maybe even without the car? Sometimes we get our identity, our sense of worth, from our job. Who are you? Oh, I work at such and such a factory. I'm an executive on the 35th floor, corner office. And then, all at once, after 32 years with the firm, they dump you. They have a pink slip Saturday, and you're out there without much of a golden parachute. And that was who you were. You were a provider, a good family man, because you brought home that paycheck. All at once, those huge brushes in the car wash just scrub away that feeling of self-worth. Maybe a divorce has happened to you, or widowhood. You were the wife or husband of a wonderful person. In fact, maybe you got your name from that person. Your standing in the community came from being married to so-and-so. And now, either through a death or because your spouse filed to get rid of you, you lose that identity. A couple of years ago, I was at the weekend speaker of a singles retreat. And most of these people were single because of divorce. A number of them, recently having gone through this, were still kind of dazed. Who am I? they asked their friends. Being married and having babies and being a mom and driving kids to soccer practice and getting supper for my husband. This is all I know. This is all I was, all I ever wanted to be. And now it's gone. Or maybe you've been thrust into sudden homelessness. Don't we define ourselves by our addresses? I live on Muchamula Street in Prosperity Palisades. That's what you always told people. But now you can't claim that address. The Bible tells us that this struggle of being a nowhere man or a nowhere woman is nothing new. God's people have always had to endure that emotional car wash. Consider the children of Israel. God's chosen people. That was their name, their identity. They basked in it. They bragged about it. For a while, they had their own land, and then they didn't. They were a free and proud people, and then slaves. In fact, when 4 young men named Daniel, Hananiah, Mishael, and Azariah were taken from their homeland and made prisoners in the pagan kingdom of Babylon, the very first thing the king there did was to strip them of their names. That's right. You can read it for yourself in the book of Daniel. And this happens in the 7th verse of chapter 1. Boom. Old names erased. Passports destroyed. Social security numbers reassigned. Immediately the king of Babylon assigned them brand new names. Remember? Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. And these were names linked directly to heathen Babylonian gods. Of course, in today's witness protection programs, the trick for the participant is to learn the new name, to immerse yourself with the new data, the fake birthplace, where you pretend that you went to school, the new driver's license with the new name on it. But for Daniel and his 3 friends, the challenge was just the opposite. They wanted to recall, to hang on to their old name, and even more, their former identity as sons of the living God. And this is the challenge for us right now, today. Maybe you've just lost about everything that you thought made you you. Your home, your family, your job, your bank account. Just about all of your definitions are gone. Or maybe you've never even had those things. You were born with just about 0 and you've gone down steadily downhill from there. But you know something? Those things really aren't your ID at all. This young hero named Daniel, they took him away from his home. He was separated from all of his loved ones. In fact, he never saw them again, ever. The king even tried to give him a different name, Belteshazzar, referring to the pagan god Bel. And yet, during his long and incredible career of service, Daniel just kept hanging on to his true identity, which was to be a servant of the living God in heaven. Nebuchadnezzar could call him whatever he liked. Daniel answered respectfully, but he still served the true God. They could assign him to sleep in any bunk they chose. They could point out to him that he was an alien in Babylon. That didn't matter. His true home, his true citizenship was heaven. He just kept saying to himself, I'm God's man. Nobody can take that away. In his newspaper article describing the center where they warehouse and debrief these would-be witness protection participants, Robert Sabag, who first reported on this for the New York Times Magazine, marvels at how thorough this stripping process really is. They really do a job on a person's brain, ripping away every shred of the past, all the former links. When it's over, you hardly know if you're coming or going. It's not like a military base. It's not like a hospital. It's not like a jail, he says. It's almost like a space station in a science fiction movie. There's absolutely no frame of reference. They don't want you to have any sense of where you are or how to get from one place to another. That's quite a description, isn't it? And I think this is exactly what our old enemy, the devil, would like to do with our minds. If he can get us to pin our identities on things that he can then add, then subtract, well, then he's got us on his spiritual yo-yo machine. It's ironic that he can tempt us into sin. And the minute we do sin, he whispers in our ear, look at you. Look at what you did. And you call yourself a Christian? No way are you a Christian. Not anymore. And if your frame of reference is your performance, how good you are, how seldom you sin and blow it, then he's got you right where he wants you, ready for him to rewrite your passport his way. But the secret is one short verse. In fact, half a verse. Daniel 1 verse 8. But Daniel made up his mind to be identified with the God of Israel. Once he did that, all the king's horses and all the king's men could not make Daniel a Babylon man.